Leeds, Leeds, Leeds. What is happening? Welcome to Working Hours, a show about a place called Leeds, a time called now, and an activity called work. Working Hours wants to record 1,000 loiners over the course of this, the most important decade in the history of the human species, and ask them about what they do all day and hear how they feel about it. My name is Simon, and this is all my fault. What did you want to be when you grew up?
A singer. Always
Singer.
wanted to be a singer. Yeah, I always wanted to be a singer. And I always was, I always was a singer. I think maybe when I was a baby, I made some noise and someone said, "Oh, she's got a lovely voice." And then ever since then, it's just been clear. Yeah.
Nice. So, you didn't have any other diversions. You didn't suddenly want to become, a doctor or a lawyer or whatever no.
Well, when I was young, I had a very chaotic sort of family life. And so I had a big dream. I think I had a big dream of being a policewoman. And I think it was mainly to get some law and order into my household, which apparently my mum and dad bought me a truncheon and I would go around the house telling people I'm smoking and like leaving litter and stuff. And that has stayed with me. I have like a part of me has had this thing about maybe being a police officer, but I'm surrounded by hippies, so that will never happen.
You're listening to Series 3, Episode 26, and to my guest, Bonnie Milnes. This is another Zoom interview recorded on the 29th of April 2022. Hello, loves. Welcome to Radio 4 from Hell. Bonnie Milnes is an actress and musician living in Leeds. She says that there's no money in either, so she also works as a carer. At the beginning of the pandemic, her band stopped performing and she lost her business, a rehearsal studio in the centre of York. Living on her own and finding her work as a carer harder than she'd ever experienced before, it was a particularly dark time in Bonnie's life. Now she is inspired to bring people together and make the most of her new life in Leeds. As Bonnie has always been passionate about fashion and has mountains of clothes from previous shows, she began a clothes swap from her home in order to meet like-minded women. Since then, she has met some amazing friends who she's been on holidays with and gotten close to. Bonnie says, "I feel very lucky to have this community and I want to share the love." Whilst the swaps are free, so as not to exclude anyone currently hard up, there is a suggested £4 donation to the swaps and the proceeds are donated to women's charities. The cost of giving a woman a whole fresh start after experiencing domestic violence is absolutely enormous, so Women's Aid need every penny. To find out more about Good On You, go to goodonyou.eco. To donate to Women's Aid or find out more about the work they do, go to womensaid.org.uk. Now, please enjoy this episode of Working Hours with Bonnie Milnes. Okay, so what is it that you are doing now then?
Now I am, so for money, and something that I've done since I was 18 has been a care worker. So I work with one client who I've worked with for 7 or 8 years, and I go to her home and support her to live a safe and healthy life and do that. Like I do live in shifts, so I go and stay with her for 24 hours and I do that once or twice a week. I also am a singer and like a performer and I have a band. We go on tour sometimes. And I do a bit of acting and sometimes a bit of modeling and stuff. But that stuff doesn't make any money. So that's just all like, even the music doesn't make any money. So that's all just for fun, really. But I would still consider that work.
Yeah. So, I mean, would the ideal then be to be paid full time as a singer?
Yeah, it would. I think in order to do that, I think you'd just maybe have to suck a lot of the fun out of it and I don't know whether or not I'm really prepared to do that. I quite like having this mix that I have of different jobs because there's doing those other things like acting, singing. You don't really get you're not really helping anyone by doing those things except for yourself and you might write a song that will really resonate with someone and change and make them feel better. But I don't know, like my my sister's got Down syndrome, and I trained at uni as a sort of special ed teacher,
Hmm.
um, and I've always felt like I have some kind of duty to do that line of work.
Mm. You've been doing that for a few years. I mean, were you doing any care work before that then?
I've been doing that since I was 18. So I was doing it when I left school. Then I worked as a care worker and, for a while, and then I went to uni
Mm.
to study to be a special needs teacher,
Mm.
and did that. But I kept looking after this, working with this lady whilst I was doing that. And then I graduated, and I went to work as a special needs tutor. But that just took all of my time,
Mm.
and I had no time to do any music or yeah, do anything creative.
Mm.
And I got quite depressed, to be honest,
Yeah.
because I didn't really have much of a life outside of it. And I loved it. I loved the students, and it was the funnest job. And
Mm.
like, but it just wasn't worth the sacrifices.
Yeah. 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 Is it sort of interpersonal care as well? Like, are you sort of like fully dressing and changing sort of people, or is it more company based? Or
I work with one lady, so I'm very lucky.
Mm.
I just work with one lady in her home.
Mm.
Um, I don't have, my brother's also a care worker, and he goes home to home. He has heaps of clients, and
Yeah. Yeah.
he does that, but I just work with one lady, and there's not much personal care in it. It's mainly, she had a brain injury, so it's quite serious mental health problems,
Mm.
and she's on lots of medication, and she needs support
Yeah. Yeah.
to do things like that. But I probably won't talk too much about that because wouldn't want to.
Yeah. 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 We'd normally spend a bit of time talking about what someone's doing in their work, and that'll cover like a lot of, sometimes it'll cover kind of things or give me hints of things that they like and they don't like. And then I'll come to the question on sort of what would you change about your work? So, I mean, if there were any three things that you could change about your work, and that includes like the way that you are working as well, what would they be?
If there were three things I could change about,
Yeah, if you could change any three things about the way that you're working at the moment, what would you change?
I would like to be paid more to do the music because I could then offer my band more money.
Mm.
That would be probably number one. Um, I love my job with Karen. I actually love it. So it's quite a hard question. So I'd like to be paid more to do singing. Um, I would like to have more clarity in the acting stuff because you never know what you're doing with that at all. Like,
Yeah.
you keep like, they tell you, oh, we might need you in June. So you keep the whole of fucking June free.
Mm.
And then they'll tell you like, like May the 29th, well, we won't need you next month. And you'll be like, great. So I would maybe have some more clarity on that. And with the sort of support work and caring, uh, I would maybe like to work with my colleagues a bit more because most of the time it's one to one.
Mm.
And I really enjoy working when they're also working. Sometimes when we go out for a day and take her out for the day, then there will be two of us. But a lot of the time I am on my own just with her with that job, and it's nicer to be another colleague. But
Mm.
obviously there's financial strains on that. It's hard to afford.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Cool. Okay. So I'll go back to lockdown now. So, I mean, if you take us through sort of where you were at as we went into lockdown, and then sort of just through lockdown, and how that changed your work, and has that changed your work permanently, or is it back to normal, as they say?
You know, well, it changed my life completely, the lockdown. Before the lockdown, I had my own business in York. I had a rehearsal rooms, like rehearsal studios in the centre of York. And that closed. And I was also working as a fitness instructor at my local gym, and that stopped. And and the only thing that I had left was the caring job. and my band obviously stopped touring. And the caring job got really, really, really hard because the government were saying that to work with our client, she was going to have to be in a separate room without us. We would only be able to. She wasn't allowed to leave. We would have to deliver her food to her. We weren't allowed to take her outside. When we saw her, we would have to wear masks,
Mm.
full PPE, gowns, everything. And this woman has no idea about the pandemic. She's got no
Yeah,
memory,
yeah.
and she's got severe mental health problems. So I was seeing nobody at all except from this lady
Mm.
who I wasn't allowed to talk to my other colleagues, who I actually felt like I was torturing because I felt like what we were doing was really, really not good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's much more dangerous than allowing her to mix with us who were mixing with nobody else, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So I became very, very, very down,
Mm.
probably the most lowest I've been in my life. And yeah, it was just a horrible, horrible time. I hope we never go back to
Yeah, yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, were you doing the same amount of hours through then, or was everything taking longer? Or did you get more hours put on, or?
Well, I was working because my colleague was pregnant. She stopped working, so I was then doing all of her shifts.
Mm.
And so I was working a lot. But to be honest with you, so we sort of appealed to get that shielding thing off the lady that we care for because she is physically healthy and
Yeah.
she didn't really need it. But the doctors, the GPs sent it out to everyone blanket.
Mm.
So this person must shield. So we repealed it, and thank God they said, yeah, this was a mistake. She doesn't have to shield. So we began able to take her out, and I had my small crossovers in the morning with my colleagues, and working completely saved me. I don't know what. I guess it was catch-22 because if I wasn't doing that job, I would have been able to mix with my family and I would have been able to
Mhm.
mix with but because I was doing that job, I was lonely, but then the job saved me from loneliness because I was working with the lady. If you
Yeah,
know what
yeah,
I mean.
yeah,
So, um, yeah, yeah, I
yeah,
worked a lot actually. I saved loads of money doing it, and I was able to go off. I went to Spain for a month at the end of the pandemic because I just saved up so much
yeah.
money.
Like well deserved as well at that point. It was just like, oh. So, yeah. Sorry to make you go through that again.
Oh
Do
no,
you think?
yeah.
Do you think it's changed your work sort of permanently, or do you think it's changed your attitude to work at all? Or
It's changed my. I have. Um, I don't know. I really, really enjoy that job, and I really, really have a lot of time for my colleagues, and we became very close during that time.
Mm.
And we went through something together, which I think was, very significant. I will definitely never forget it.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, I, yeah, I think that's what's changed about my job is my relationship with my colleagues. And I don't know, it was so unexpected. It was so weird. It was just,
Yeah, I don't think we've processed it yet. We've kind of gone into forgotten about it mode, but then at the same time, I was interviewing someone yesterday and we were sort of covering this. And it was like, trying to remember the dates of stuff and how long ago was it and when was it? And like, 'cause time's sort of collapsed. This is like, when did things happen? What's going on?
doing that thing that you do with travel. You're like, yeah, I
Yeah.
can't really remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or try not to remember it. Yeah.
I did actually start a podcast, when I was during the lockdown. So
All right.
that about halfway through, I moved to Leeds, moved in with my boyfriend, and he had a home studio, so we made our own little podcast downstairs, which was great actually.
Cool. What was it on?
It had different themes each week, so it had different sort of themes. I guess it was mainly aimed at women. It was quite funny. It had lots of stories and lots of different guests, but it really did help to be more sociable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Is it still up then? Is it still available?
No, I was actually on like some streaming thing where you had to pay like £10 a month. So
Yeah.
I don't know if like you're on the same thing, but I was like,
Yeah. It's like, it's just an expense at that point. If you're not doing it sort of regularly, it's just, you're just throwing money away, aren't you? Unless you can
yeah,
actually monetize it. So, yeah. But that was, that must have been a nice thing to do. How many episodes did you get out, do you think?
5, but they were very well produced. Like,
Mm.
and obviously, yeah, I write music, and so it was nice to live in that house because there was a studio in it and stuff. And yeah, for a while, there were so many weird stages of it. For a
Yeah.
while, my dad said that because I met my boyfriend just before the pandemic, and then I got really depressed, as I said, and so my dad had moved in with me away from my family to sort of help me and look after me whilst I was working as a carer.
Mm.
And then I wanted to be with Rufus, my partner, and my dad had said, "You can't live in this house." It was our family house. You can't live in this house if you can also mix with him. Yeah, we moved to a caravan park, like a boatyard, moved into a cabin and lived in there for a while. So many stages of the lockdown that were like really strange.
It just went on for, well, it was weird because it went on forever, but also there were like respites in it for some people. I mean, because everyone had a different experience as well. Because, obviously you were working all the way through it, and like some people were working all the way through it and then were working at home and then we're doing like more hours than ever. And it's just so, I mean, so many of us went through the same thing, but then we didn't at all. It was such a different kind of experience
And there's
for
some
everyone.
people it feels like it didn't even happen. Like my best mate, she runs the boatyard,
Yeah.
and at the boatyard, it was like there was no pandemic. Everyone was just living in their boats, living like. I was just like, at my work, it's like everybody's covered head to toe in plastic, and like
Mm.
over there, it's just like it was just so weird, the different world.
Mm. And how people reacted to it as well. And like some people are like, no, you're not allowed within 100 yards of my house. And other people are like, I don't care, whatever.
Some people are like, "Is that a mask? Get it off, you robot."
It's like, I have to wear it for my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll stay on the fun ones then, since we're in this region. So I'm going to talk about Brexit.
I love
So
God.
this always gets everyone like full of joy. So have you noticed any effect on your work since we Brexited?
No, to be honest, there's not really any difference whatsoever in that
Mm,
industry.
mm, yeah.
I'd say. I mean, if we're talking like Tory government, there's obviously a lot less mental health support. Like
Mm,
mental health is just with the lady that I work with has gone down the absolute pan. Um, yeah, with my sister, social workers, everything's just gone, yeah, down the absolute pan. But Brexit, I haven't really noticed, to be honest.
mm, yeah. I don't know whether to kind of talk more about the performance side of stuff, or whether to go into a question, and whether this question will kind of lead us into more of that kind of thing. So if I give you, so basically the question is around social media and kind of how much social media takes up of your work, and how beneficial is it to your work? Like, and is that time investment worthwhile? See, if people who are listening to this, it's like, I'm actually formulating a question over time. So eventually it will be like an actual question. But yeah, so on the social media front, like, how does that affect your work?
Yeah, I guess I have to use social media in order to publicize when I'm going to play shows.
Mm,
Um, I enjoy social media. I enjoy posting on social media.
mm,
When I look at social media for too long, I get really depressed. I think as everyone does. And I also feel this sense of guilt sometimes on social media that like I do present quite a like as everybody is doing a
yeah,
perfect life.
yeah,
And I just feel really guilty that someone might look at it and then think like, "Oh, like, is this what's I don't know, comparing myself, but you're comparing yourself to something that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And, um, and then I do really feel that guilt. So I try and be as as real as I possibly can without obviously a dick picture of my shit, but I also I also don't oh yeah, I don't know. You have to be very careful. I mean, in all honesty, my band Instagram is so bad, and Facebook and everything.
Mm,
I post probably a week before I go on tour,
mm.
the dates for it. And yeah, I'm surprised that anyone even comes to the gigs because there's no way for them to know about it.
So would you say your social media game's strong then?
I have so many Instagram pages for different things that I've set up and then they've gone down the pan. I've got sketch shows that I made during the pandemic. But there's- at the moment I'm doing the good on you stuff. That's my main work as it was. I'm running a clothes swap for women's charities in Leeds
Okay.
to um to help bring together women and to help, be sustainable and share clothes and stuff. So at the moment, that's what my social media game is all about.
Mm.
My social media game for the singing is very, very weak.
Is there any of you singing on it at least?
That's it. There are bits, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm usually, but the thing is, I go through these stages of reinvention where I take everything down. I contacted my old record label, Young Thugs, and I said, you need to, I'd got it into my head that everything needs to come down. They're like, are you sure, Bonnie? I'm like, everything, clean slate, everything. Then it goes, and 6 months later, I'm like, I've done nothing new. I'm like, I need that stuff back.
So, are you quite a whimsical person then?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I definitely am. Yeah.
So do you need is the social care side of things then kind of like an anchor of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I hate the question, what do you do?
Mm,
So much. I
mm,
hate it because people say, what do you do? And I just say, my answer is just what I think they want to hear. If
yeah.
I think it's the one that's going to look like me, if I say that I'm a carer, I'll say I'm a care worker. If I meet a musician, then I'll say I'm a musician. And then I don't know, and then it changes. I'll say I'm a carer, but I also do this. I'm just like, I hate that question so much. It's like my housemate. It's like my housemate who works in a warehouse. But if someone asked me about him, that would be the last thing that I'd say about who he is or what he does. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
Your job, sometimes it can define you if you want it to define you, but it doesn't have to.
Mm. Well, I don't think it ever can entirely because, everyone you have to take on multiple different roles, You a child to your parents and you're a parent to your children if you have children and so on and you're someone's doctor or, lawyer or you've got so many roles to fulfill in society that yeah. And then it's the sort of I think a lot of it can be laid at the feet of the media. I think there's a human tendency to kind of condense everything and abbreviate everything and just kind of simplify it. But the media reinforces that for us. So part of the reason that I wanted to do this was, I wanted there to be like a careers advice kind of level to it, to say to people that there are all these different kind of jobs and different kind of things that you can do. And it's not just, there aren't just 12 jobs in the world like a journalist. And, if you look on TV, if you look in films, especially the kind of jobs that the lead characters in films have, it's very narrow. It'll generally be, how many of them are cops and how many of them are, journalists and how many of them are hard hitting lawyers and all of this.
At the moment, it's like everyone works in marketing, but you don't see them saying that they work in marketing in TV and film because
No.
it's too fucking boring. I don't know what we're marketing, but everyone's doing it.
Yeah. That is a very good point. Yeah. I mean, you know what you're marketing with your social media, or you know what you should be marketing, but you're
Yeah.
not
Yeah, I'm
necessarily.
not marketing anything. Need to become one.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to my UBI question because I think it'll flow quite nicely this way. So, if you were getting a universal basic income, what do you think that would change about your work? Do you think I mean, as I put it to someone recently, do you think you would just lose a lot more money on your artistic endeavors? Would you just be spending it on like doing more art stuff?
Yeah, I probably would. I definitely would still could be a care worker. Um, I but I don't know. I don't know really. I'm I think I would. Um, UBI is one like I'm not sure. I'm I understand why it would be really amazing and I can see all of its benefits.
Hmm.
But I've got I don't know, I
How's it
feel
work?
like
Who's paying?
yeah, and I understand like I understand the sort of premise of it and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just only really worked with like don't know whether it would work with everyone. Like
Hmm.
I feel like whether or not it's a good or bad thing.
Hmm.
Like my brother, who's a care worker, if you're like in a world that's like all my brother's mates are like when they're not at work, they're getting pissed.
Hmm.
That's literally just the truth of it. And I think the work gives a lot of them like summit to keep doing and like some purpose and somewhere to be because life can be tough and it's nice to know that you're needed in this place and I just think that for some it would be good, but I just really worry about others and UBI.
They're like a sort of the meaning creating function of work, of like work being able to give you meaning. And then, well, I suppose it's a question of whether you think everyone has the ability to make their own meaning for themselves. And I think, we've all got that capability, but, it needs to be nourished and supported and nurtured. But I think there would be a lot of good that would come out of it. In many ways, if we think back to the pandemic, like, a lot of the films would be just everyone's, all the panic buying stuff that was in the media at the beginning of it, like that was very much something that they wanted to push because that's like a story that news can sell of like panic, panic, panic. But, the reality was that most people were pretty calm and orderly and sort of looking to find the correct information and trying to do what was expected of them. And in most cases, again, people that were on it, they were ahead of the government and other people were just not engaged at all for whatever reasons. But then at the same time, would it be worse? Would that be a worse situation if there were more people kicking their heels? I mean, you know, maybe there'd be more people around to have more money to go to your gigs, or they'd need more entertainment anyway. They'd need more things to be entertained by. I'm guessing.
I suppose that is true. I would be interested in asking my brother if you didn't have to do this job, would you still do it? Because it definitely does give it meaning. And yeah, I don't know. Me and my dad always joke. We always just say, "Oh, the more he's at work, the less he's out of trouble." I genuinely mean that. But like, this one is there. We know where he is.
Yeah. But I think as well, you need to care for other people. It's not just you need people to care for you. You need to care for other people as well. You need, you need that exchange. You need to feel useful. You need to feel needed, and you need to feel that you're doing something of purpose.
And some people have it to like different sort of degrees. Like, yeah, I've sort of, oh yeah, but you're so right. Like, um, everybody does need to do it. Some people have one person that they put all of their
Mm.
sort of love and attention in, and then some people have like they're different people. But I also, yeah, I'm drawn to finding even friendships where like my friend is sort of like in a troubled spot, like,
Mm.
and like some people say like you're a carer or you're the person being cared for in different friendships and relationships and stuff.
Mm.
I do quite often go to find people to care for.
Have you come across the term emotional labor?
Remind me.
Um, so, well, as it sounds, but sort of, I mean, I was, I was going to get your ideas on it, but you flipped it on me and put me on the spot and made me actually have to define it. I could Google it, but it's doing the way I understand it. I think is it's doing the work for people. It's like you're being emotional for them, like you're having to process your own emotions to make them happy, kind of thing. So it's like you're not allowed to have your own sort of anger or rage or whatever. You have to keep resetting yourself to be on the level for the other person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
does. Yeah, yeah. I think with
I mean, when you said being there with colleagues, was that come on, brain work? That being the kind of what am I trying to say here? Of like sharing the load.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's not just about having someone to chat to. It's like having someone there that's engaged in what you're doing on the same level as you, rather than you just because that's a different relationship. That's not a peer relationship, a caregiving relationship, is it? It's
yeah,
like a reliant relationship.
yeah. I mean, I would say that it's a little bit different to a lot of care jobs. I mean, all care jobs are different because all
Mm.
people are different, completely different. But this one's like, we wouldn't she's a very intelligent woman who wouldn't like patronize or anything. So I guess like we're not going to say like, come on now, it's time for your dinner or anything. Like, it's like very different because I know this lady's like, she's super, super brainy and
Mm.
like, and so it's different but it still is a reliance. I know that she needs me to be there. So the relationship with the colleagues, um, I don't know, we were all going through a really terrible time and we didn't like, we just, we were the only people that we had was each other.
Mm.
That was the only people that we saw. Um, yeah. And and I know all about it's mainly one colleague to be honest, because the way the shifts work is that you take over from the other one. So
Yeah, yeah.
um she was going through and I also was and yeah, I don't know how close we would be if all of the pandemic and stuff hadn't happened because we worked together for like 5 years beforehand and we
Yeah.
were just like normal colleagues and like now we're very close friends, which is really nice.
Well, that's it. It's like your war buddies. You know, you've been through something that nobody else has been through, and only you two know what that was like.
Yeah, yeah.
You were there. we're,
But
we're the only ones that know.
no, I mean, I know that everybody else had a tough time during the pandemic, but I just think particularly like NHS care,
Oh yeah,
which is
yeah,
very hard because because the rules were being made by government who had no idea of what it felt like to actually implement those rules on
mm,
someone that was so vulnerable,
mm,
uh, to like to they're like just get all of
yeah,
them to, fully cover up and wear masks and not be in the same room as each other and not let this person outside
mm,
of a room and like that's not like that's for me just I felt like I was almost torturing this woman and it was being made by someone who had no idea about the individual or what that is like for the carers to have to implement on the individual.
mm.
Did
Yeah.
you watch the film? Did you watch the film Help?
No, no, I've not seen it.
Or so accurate. It's got Stephen Graham in it.
Mm,
It's so accurate. It's about the pandemic and it's set in a care home.
mm,
And like it's really, really amazing. I would highly recommend it.
mm. Yeah, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of those stories kind of coming through now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was utter chaos, and it was unprecedented, and it was, and and it's that sort of narrow view again. I think we're all guilty of, but and I'm being overly fair to the government here, which I suppose for the sake of some kind of balance. But it was a new thing. It was, and it was like it definitely felt from my memory of it. It was like kind of a blanket kind of, well, everyone just stay indoors then. Everyone just stay indoors, and then it's like, okay, well, but that's not going to work. Oh right, people who need to go outdoors, who really, really, really need to go outdoors, they can go outdoors. But then what do? And who are those people? And how does that? It's like, oh, well,
Oh, the
everyone.
5 mile radius.
Yeah.
Yeah, for an hour.
Yeah.
Actually, no, we're gonna have categories now. You're band B or what, tier 2.
Well, that's it. It was like, try all these different kind of quick all-in-one fits for the problem, which is never going to work. But then you can't design all the individual specific needs and so on. So, I mean, it's not an easy task, and places did better than other places, and, some things worked better than other things. And, but yeah, I mean, go on.
Just perhaps instead of just put the responsibility more on the individual and said, there's this virus, you will get it if you go within 2 meters of each other.
Mm,
And then, and if you're vulnerable, don't go near someone else. And,
mm,
rather than, but then I guess that just shows sort of the faith that the government have in the public, that they felt like they couldn't educate and get us to make our own decisions. They had to set up I know it's impossible to decide, and that they like must have been really hard coming up with this legislation when you've got no idea what is going on. But yeah, I just think you're right. They couldn't have never done it individual by individual. So, but they could have maybe put it in someone's hand.
definitely could have been done better. Yes.
We can agree on that.
Okay, so I'm going to come to we've done Brexit, we've done social media, done COVID, so climate change. So, I use climate change because it's a big kind of catch-all for the environmental stuff. So, and my question is generally about whether, from a work point of view, it's a concern, and whether it's something that you can do anything about in your work. Are you just creating carbon by working, or are you kind of, is there an adaptation and mitigation and things that you can do in your work, or things that are happening, or, policies being designed of like, well, this is going to change this working in the future. Yeah, if I can just get you to speak around that.
I mean, I think the like the NHS, healthcare assistants, nurses, doctors, and care workers contribute hugely to climate change because of all of the single-use plastic we use. Like with all of the medication is just covered in plastic. Of all the tests, they're just absolutely covered in plastic. My client is her brain injuries affected her being able to regulate the temperature. So her house has to be really, really warm all the time. And because otherwise she'll be too cold. And yeah, it's really it's not great at all. I think the pandemic, like I felt like we were really making with the single use plastic thing. I really felt like we were making waves before the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like stopped using the bags, we'd stopped having unnecessary packaging on fruit and vegetables. And then since the pandemic, we've just kind of been, that was really, really bad and really traumatic. And we'll just focus.
But it was also like it kind of had to go out of the window. So at the same time as like all that traffic fell, the skies were clear, the roads were clear mostly. And then, but then at the same time, the streets started filling up with, face masks and And it's kind of like, oh, the birds and the animals are coming back. And then everywhere you went, there was like, oh, there's face masks everywhere and, hand sanitizer bottles. And
Yeah. I think but there's also, we can't work from home like at all. And so we all have to go into work. One thing that I think is good about my work is they're like living shifts. So we're not traveling to and from work 5 days a week. We're traveling to and from work like once or twice a week.
yeah,
Um,
and off peak hours, I would guess.
yeah, off peak hours.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Can you walk to your client? Is she within walking distance?
No, I used to before I could drive. So I live in Leeds, and she lives in a village outside of York. I used to get the train from Burley. So I used to go from here to York. Then I used to run from York Station to the village that I work in. So it was like a commute. Like it was a long, long commute. But like I said, I only did it like once or twice a week. So
Mm.
it wasn't too bad. Now I can drive. I do drive there. Um, and it makes my life a hell of a lot easier.
Mm.
I am going to be moving closer towards York way, so I don't have to drive as far anymore. But my partner lives in York, so
Mm.
um, yeah, I guess yeah, she lives rural. Like it's pretty hard to get to, but it's not every day. So that's one really good thing about the pandemic is people did learn that they don't have to travel every day so
Mm.
far.
Mm. Yeah, and use the car for everything. I mean, like that question can be a bit awkward, especially if there's the tendency to sort of, you kind of guilt trip yourself. Like, well, I don't do this and I don't do that. And it's like,
No,
well,
dude, I am vegan, but nobody can win. Like nobody is perfect. I
no,
guess we just
but some people are definitely worse than others. And this is where I always like to go back to billionaires shooting themselves into space. If only they weren't coming back.
yeah. Coming back and biting Twitter.
I'm sure we'd be all quite happy to, like, I mean, we all have club together to get the money together. Now we just need to fire them off onto Mars and then we can live in peace.
Yeah.
So, so I think that's most of my questions. I've got a question. Actually, I'll ask you this because are you unionized or have you been in the union?
Yeah.
No. Have you ever been
not
asked?
sure what that means, to be honest.
So, like, yeah, are you a member of the union for your care work? You're not with Unison or anything like that.
And I'm not in the actors.
Not in equity.
Say.
Yeah.
Actually, the jobs that I've had, I'm pretty sure they don't want equity members.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, are you getting more work on that front now? Because there's loads of production happening in the UK at the moment.
Yeah, I've been getting some really cool jobs, and that side of things is going good.
Mm.
And it's a lot easier to manage doing the acting because you're just one person. You don't have to figure out 5 other people's whereabouts and organizing, rehearsals, renting rehearsal space and stuff. Like it's just you, and so it's a lot easier to manage.
Mm. I mean, do you like that side? Do you like the kind of organizing side? Do you like? I mean,
I like organizing myself.
I mean, where do you feel that you've got the sort of most autonomy in the work? Do you feel you've got control over work, and it's not like work's got control over you? Do you have a separation of work and your own time? Like, is it quite delineated? Can you switch off? Like,
At the moment, the thing is, like, I know what I want to do eventually, and I have like a very clear goal and by like for my future, which is to help sort of get learning disabled people into employment because like this the biggest cost on taxpayers is adult social care for people like my sister, and there's loads and loads of adults with learning disabilities that could so be in meaningful employment that are put in daycare centres and sort of just there are costs to the government,
Mm.
But if there was more support in place to find them meaningful employment where like they definitely could do it, like I strongly and firmly agree that like learning disabled students, there is the right job for them. It just needs to be found and it just needs to be facilitated. Um, and so one day I want to go and do my master's in social enterprise and then try and like try and sort that out a little bit. So at the moment I feel like everything that I'm doing is kind of just for fun.
Mm.
I'm not too serious about it. I'm like I just like yeah, I'm not too serious about anything.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to go back to that point from you saying that. I think it's interesting that you mentioned that you've got sort of your own company planned in the future. You've got social enterprise planned. I mean, in terms of like meaningful work or gainful employment, I mean, it very much sounds to me, so correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like, you know, you're not looking for work's sake for people of just like, oh, the moral goodness of work will make you a better person. And, you know, disabled people should work 9 to 5 like everyone else because it would be morally good. It sounds more
Yeah.
like, you know, like we said before of work giving you some meaning and something to do and a role in something rather than just, you know, being treated a specific way, you know, unless you've got the sort of, you still get lumped into that bracket of sort of being disabled and kind of, oh, well, they can't do anything or they shouldn't be doing anything or.
And with the students that we used to have at the college that I used to work at, we used to have like different classes like maths of money, office skills, like practical classes. In the maths of money one, we would say, so you're going for this job, they would all be going for different jobs. It's an amazing institution. It's called Blueberry Academy. It's in York and it helps to find young adults employment and sets them up with employment and stuff. And then we used to have this class called Massive Money, and we used to say, if you got that job as a kitchen porter at blah blah blah, you would be able to get you would get £850 a month plus tips. So we're talking £950, yeah. So we'd look at the or whatever, £90. We'd get like an Excel spreadsheet and we'd say, this is how much you're gonna get paid, this is how much your rent's gonna be, this is how much your bills are gonna be, this is how much your food's gonna be. And we'd say, you've still got 200 quid. Like, what are you going to do? And they'd be like, this, that, and the other. I don't know. It's just like, it's just meaningful to work for that money. And
Mm,
it's nice to be able to spend it on something like, oh, do you take, you could take so and so to the cinema and that would cost you 20 quid. And you've still got blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? Just like having
mm,
some autonomy over your life and having
mm,
some freedom. Because, like, people face learning disabled people face problems going to work and and they they might do things like we have students that would be consistently late or early 5 minutes either way, but would never get there on time. And the problem isn't that the person was sleeping in or lazy. It's just they can't tell the time on on a certain type of clock. So the only problem is they need a digital clock. And maybe it takes a little bit of time figuring out those small things, but like
mm,
that's or doesn't mean that it's not worth it for the rest of their lives. It
mm,
just means that it takes a few months to get everything right. Um, and yeah, I don't know. It's like my sister's. She's slow, but she's very careful.
mm,
And she now works for Arup, which is an engineering company,
mm,
and she puts in data about potholes.
mhm.
So she just like puts data into an Excel spreadsheet, and for a lot of people, they'd be like, "This is so boring." Like just putting in the same things and just Excel spreadsheets, but she loves it because she's
Mm.
a perfectionist. And for someone like her, or maybe someone with Asperger's or something, they might find it quite nice to
Rewarding.
get
Yeah.
yeah to do jobs that not we all have different abilities.
But I mean, it's good to be good at something, you know, like that's the other part of work is because you're doing it all the time. The theory, you're getting that practice, you should be getting better at it. You should be, you know, it's something that you can master and be well, not necessarily the best at, but you know, we all have this, I think we all have this idea in our heads of a level of professionalism, whatever that is, whatever industry you're in, that it's like, okay, so I need to be at that level. I think when you start in a workplace, you're looking at the work culture and you're kind of like, okay, who's good, who's respected, what are they respected for? Maybe not consciously, but I think, there's always that benchmarking.
Or when you're at school, you look at when you. I found when I left school, and I'd look at the teachers I respected at school, and I would think, why do I respect them, or like what were they good at? I do. I think you're 100% right there. Like you definitely look at people in your workplace and go, what? My manager at the moment, she's fantastic, and when I look at her, I'm just like, what is it about you that makes you fantastic? Like,
Mm.
yeah, yeah, and you are like, and you are trying to be better at your job, but then also you kind of know what you're not that good at as well.
Hmm. You do. But the strange thing is, there's the element of you being your own worst critic, and there's also the element of like you've no idea how other people are receiving things, and the way you present messages that you put out. Like people can take any reading from any of those kind of things. So it's like we're always working on best guess, aren't we? Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's sort of like the social media thing again of just like, oh, I should put this out or this interests me. And then you look at your wall and you're kind of like, what does that say?
That's what all ever was in my head. Sometimes I'm like, I just forget about all that shit. And I'm like, do you know what? I'm vibing with this at the moment. So I'm just going to share this. Like, I shared a video of Lizzo of her new song last week.
Mm.
And then, like, zero engagement. My boyfriend liked it. Nobody else liked it. Nobody else cares. But I'm like, that is actually genuinely what I'm interested in. And like,
Yeah.
it doesn't fit the algorithms at all of social media. But that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So I've done all of my questions. So I'm going to throw it over to you. Is there anything that you sort of thinking about work or anything that's kind of come up as we've chatted that you want to talk about? Anything that you want to plug? Do you want to like plug the band or any of your socials or
Well,
over
if
to
it,
you?
you've got a Leeds listenership, so I would really like the especially women or gender non-conforming people of Leeds to come to my clothes swap on the 8th of May at Sheep Street. But they can find that the page for that at Good on You Leeds.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, that would be great.
Tell us a little bit more about it then. Just that, like, how did you start up? How long has it been going? Like, is it growing or is it steady or?
It started in my kitchen here, downstairs when I first moved to Leeds and got my own house and stuff with my friends. Like moved out and I wanted to meet more women in the area because I didn't have any girlfriends at all, and I wanted to create some new friendships. And so I invited this individual women that I knew from around to come over to mine. I said, "We'll have a clothes swap." And I don't really drink. And so it wasn't like I was going to the pub every night and meeting people that way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do something something that I care about. I love clothes and I love secondhand clothes. Um, and I had to have loads. So I thought I'll invite all these girls round, and we went round in a circle and got out our old outfits. And I have loads of clothes from old shows.
Hmm.
So I'll be like, I wore this, blah, blah, blah. Like, I loved it, but I know that I'm not going to wear it again. So does anybody else want it? And we did this, like, and it was just so much fun, such a laugh, everyone trying on clothes and just like having a great time.
Mm.
And they've all those other people that were there have made friends with each other, and like we've gone on holiday together, we've got really close, and I've really found my friendship group here in Leeds by the clothes swap.
Mm.
And I thought I really want to make this on a bigger scale because I do feel like a lot of people are very lonely.
Mm.
And like I was saying about the sort of drinking thing, I think there's a certain type of like drunk friendship that you can create, but by doing something that's slightly different. I don't know that it's a more real friendship than meeting somebody in the club a little bit.
Mm.
I'm also really passionate about charities that support women that have been victims of domestic abuse, or I've done our last fundraiser was for Sarsville, which is the support against rape and sexual violence in
Mhm.
group in Leeds. So yeah, each swap is you can just leave any donation. Like we suggest £4, but you can take as many clothes as you like.
Mm.
and people can come along. They don't have to bring clothes if they don't want to. We have loads of stock already. So it's basically free clothes, and it's a very friendly group of people that, yeah, I say women and gender non-conforming people, so non-binary people, but it's basically a PC way of saying no fellas.
Yeah. But then at the same time, you're not really going to get that many, but like blokes who are being blokey blokes, so are not going to be like, oh, I'm going to go and do dress up, are they?
Yeah. Yeah, but
Maybe at the weekend.
then you get the creeps that are like, oh, we gotta go dancing because there's gonna be
Yeah.
like loads of girls there trying on clothes. And I'm like, yeah, we need to make sure that they can't come in.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if there was any money changing hands with it, and if sort of money. I mean, you kind of answered it because there's like cover charge. You're giving the money to charities, like fundraising. But yeah, I mean, like, if that became a job for you, would it be fun anymore, or would that kill it?
Uh, yeah, it would be pretty amazing. Like I do actually see that as being a like future idea is
Yeah.
if I could make this into a thing, good on you.
Mm.
And do it in different cities and even get other people to do, like we do Macmillan coffee mornings or whatever, people can host their own Macmillan coffee morning.
Mm-hmm.
But like if people could host their own good on you and they can just like invite their friends over and swap clothes and then raise some money for a charity.
Have you tried doing that online? Like, so you could have it at a distance, so people could. I mean, you're not going to have we'd be dressing up on camera. It wouldn't be the same, but I mean, maybe you could. It could be quite interesting.
You'd have to send the
Yeah, you'd have to
clothes.
post the items to each other and stuff. So it wouldn't. But I mean, better than going to landfill.
Yeah, it is. But I also think that the actual loveliness about it is just being with each other.
Yeah, being in the physical space and being, yeah.
And passing the clothes and everything. And I think that that's what people are craving. They're not craving another fucking Zoom party. I never went to one. No, I did. I went on one. I went on before I actually started going out with my boyfriend. He did like a live stream, like a gig as a DJ. And I was watching it and I just felt like a creep because I was there watching it. No one could see me. And I was like watching him and all of his friends. And I was like, this is so weird. But yeah, I think it has to be in person. Like the more time that you invest in it, you do at some point, if it becomes a full-time job, then you do kind of have to get some money for it. But I think at the moment, it's not too much work for me. I have my friend Alice, who's an amazing graphic designer, and she's done all the graphics for me. So she helps me, like, tells me when I should put something on Instagram, and that's really helpful, and to get more volunteers. Because at the end of the day, I don't want it to just be my thing either. The whole niceness of it is that I met these amazing people through doing it, and I want to like promote and create new friendships. So,
I mean, sorry, I will wind it up, but does the kind of the artistic side and the good on you side, like, do you feel that's teaching you or made you learn like business skills of like the way to organize and how to do your paperwork, and like has it enforced market discipline on you and made you
what's paperwork?
What's paper?
No, to be fair, I know I like business. I did business studies. I used to have a business. I do like it. This is not a business. This is just, there's literally no money changing hands. We just take the money for charity, give it to charity. Like, there's nothing complicated about it. I think at some point you do have to make a decision to turn something legit, and the success of the next few good on yous will determine whether or not I do that. But I'm quite happy just keeping it low key.
Thank you again to Bonnie for being my guest. Thanks again to all my guests, and thanks to you, Leeds, for being my subject. And of course, most of all, thanks to you, my dear listener. Come back on Monday to hear me talk to Leeds-based eco-builder Kevin Pratt. You can follow this show on Twitter at Working Hours 3 and on Instagram at Working Hours Pod Leeds. Use the hashtag Working Hours Pod Leeds to stay up to date on when new episodes are being released. DM me with your questions, or most importantly, to get in touch if you'd like to be my guest on this show. Please do chuck in anything you can to help the show grow. go to ko-fi.com, that's ko-fi.com/working hours, and join me there for £1 a month. And or you can make a one-off donation of whatever amount you want there. You can also go to patreon.com/working hours pod to support Working Hours, again from as little as £1 a month. Why not be super awesome and join both? There are live streams with me on the Patreon, and you can get access to the Working Hours Discord with a Ko-fi membership. So go crazy. Spend on this show like there's no tomorrow. Why not? Your planet is burning. Your house is on fire. Your governments are criminals. The oil industry are maniacs. And bankers are completely insane. We're losing everything. We aren't acting like it. Do something new and something different. Remember to like, share, follow and subscribe to Working Hours. Work for peace and plan with kindness. Okay, that's me. Cheers, ears. Take care out there and be kind to each other, Leeds. If you're listening to this, I assume you have some connection to Leeds, like living here or being from here. If you're such a person in Leeds or from Leeds and you haven't done your recording for Working Hours yet, then don't wait. Email me at workinghoursPod@western-studios.com and let's arrange some time to record your Working Hours interview. If you want to be a guest on the show, put guest in your subject line and add a short bio in your message along with some indication of your availability. I will need a 2-hour window for us to record in. I can record in your work time or during your downtime. I have been recording interviews for Working Hours for over a year on Zoom, but I can record offline as well. How do you feel about work? What do you like and not like about your work? You can be on Working Hours anonymously, or you can promote yourself, your company, or your brand. Cleaner or owner, what is your experience? Have your voice heard for a change. Share your wisdom with people who want to hear it for a change. Give us the inside skinny on what's happening in your industry. Loiners, what are you doing in the world? What is Leeds doing most of the time? Be a part of local history. Be on Working Hours. This is your show, Leeds. It's all about what you are making and have made of yourself and of our city. Do you even know what you're doing? If you think you do, then come and tell me about it. Come on Working Hours even if you don't know what you're doing. I certainly don't. Email me right now. Quick, get a pen. workinghourspod@western-studios.com. If you're allowed to do that, that is. If you're not allowed to do that, then maybe sneakily tell me why. You can email this show securely and anonymously via westernstudios@protonmail.com. And I could alter your voice on a recording and keep you anonymous. Come and tell me how awful and dodgy your employer is. If you and your business aren't ashamed of what you do, then let's hear all about it. What good are you doing the rest of us? Are you socially useful? Am I? Is this? Send your feedback, questions, comments and queries right now to workinghourspod@western-studios.com. Follow this show on Twitter @WorkingHours3 and on Instagram @WorkingHoursPodLeeds to find out when new episodes are being released, or to DM me with any questions or comments. Or you can use the hashtag WorkingHoursPodLeeds on either site to find me. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/western_studios_Leeds. And I'm on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Simon-Treen, or you can go to my company page, linkedin.com/company/Western-Studios. Yes, I have a company of one. To be fair to me, I am the best company that I have ever worked for. If you want to work with me to make a podcast or any digital audio content in Leeds, then get in touch. Whether it's for a cause, for publicity campaigns, product promotions, sales, or just for your own passion projects, then get in touch with me, Western Studios, now. If you're thinking of online audio content creation, then think Western Studios for support, advice and guidance on getting it made. At Western Studios, you work with a real life loiner who is actually in Leeds, who you can actually work with on your digital audio content. Not a piece of software, not a course of articles or a series of live chats and video courses, but me, a person, in physical place-based reality. So don't wade through vapid articles and videos and podcasts about how to make podcasts by disembodied virtual people on the web. Get on with making your podcast now. Then, when it gets hard and expensive and it all goes wrong, which it will, then call Western Studios to make your podcast with you or even for you. Western Studios will take on your podcast's boring, time-consuming and painful admin, recording, editing, transcription, whatever. Tell me about your podcasting pain points and I can make it all better for you. I feel your pain. For a charge, I'll share it. Remember, podcast work is work. Leeds businesses, Leeds campaigns, Leeds brands. Got an inkling that you'd like a podcast but don't know where to start? Hit me up at makemypodcast@western-studios.com and we'll start making your podcast straight away. The first hour of arranged consultation and pre-production time is free. And then I charge £25 an hour after that. I can arrange hefty discounts for the right projects. So tell me your idea and your budget and I'll tell you what I can do for you. What do you have to lose? Time. That's what. Time is running out. Temperatures are rising. The sun's getting real low on humanity now. So make your thing and make it now, because you and all your future ancestors who will now never be will be holding your peace for the rest of forever. The best time to make a podcast was 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. Writers in Yorkshire, what are you doing with your lives? Hopefully you're writing. Well, I know there are listeners out there who want to hear great original writing performed as audio content that is about and for and has been made in Leeds. How do I know this? Because I am one of them. Help me make your old screenplays, unpublished novels, unperformed plays, stories, poems and performances. Whatever you got, baby. Make it as podcast content. Is your work arty, salacious, pulpy, strange? Good. I want to make it into a podcast or audiobook. I get to practice making shows and you get a finished, performed and published version of your writing. Save yourself the hassle and the headache of making your podcast by giving it to me instead. And finally, once again, please let this show, what you're listening to right now, Working Hours, get big and strong by joining its Patreon. Support Working Hours online. Be a champion on Patreon. Don't ask the membership fee. It's £1. For £1 a month, you can really inspire me and motivate me. Maybe one day you'll even cover my costs. Go to patreon.com/working hours pod to sign up, or go to Ko-fi, ko-fi.com/working hours and join me there for £1 a month. Be super awesome and join both. There's a monthly live stream on the Patreon and you can get access to the Working Hours Discord with a Ko-fi membership. So do both. Go crazy. Spend on me like there's no tomorrow. Why not? Your planet is burning. Your house is on fire. Your governments are criminals. The oil industry are maniacs. And bankers are completely insane. We're losing everything. Act like it. Do something new and something different. Work for peace and plan with kindness. Remember to like, share, follow and subscribe to Working Hours. Tell your gran, tell your housekeeper, tell your gardener, tell your parole officer, tell your boss. Tell Leeds and I'll see thee next time. Our Kid. Working Hours is presented, edited and recorded by Simon Treen for Western Studios Leeds Limited. The music was The Bees from Chopin's Etudes, which is in the public domain and was taken from museopen.org.